Welcome to 2-Bit Gaming. Today's topic, a handheld with a touchscreen and 2 cartridge slots. And it's not the Nintendo DS. Nintendo has dominated the handheld market throughout the entire lifetime of the Game Boy, and continues to outpace its competitors today. Big names like Atari, Sega, NEC, and SNK have attempted to topple the Big N and failed. Today's story is about a little company that probably should never have tried. Tiger Electronics. Here it is, the R-Zone headgear. Before Tiger attempted to take on the legendary Game Boy, they set their sights a little lower and tried to take on the Virtual Boy. A lot of people consider the Virtual Boy one of Nintendo's biggest mistakes. Well, this craptacular knockoff makes the Virtual Boy look like a masterpiece of VR goodness. If you happen to get an R-Zone, don't open it. Remember the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? Yeah, this is worse. The Gamecom. This is the original, but there was a smaller one with a better screen. I used to think it was called the Game.com, but in the ads it was just the Gamecom, so I guess the dot in the middle just referred to the promised online capabilities. Now you can't tell by its size, which is about the same as the original Game Boy, but this thing is heavy, and I have to admit it feels pretty sturdy. It almost feels solid, like a brick, which is about all it's good for, but I'll get to that later. Tiger Electronics Gamecom, with its low resolution, low refresh rate, monochrome screen, was released back in 1997. That was just 1 year before the Game Boy Color hit the market, so Tiger Electronics was doomed on day one to be outclassed. In all honesty, the Sega Game Gear, Atari Lynx, and the original Game Boy outclassed it several years before.
What's there to do?
Nothing.
Did that yesterday. I miss Wheel of Fortune.
Could I tempt you with a little Gamecom? Games on demand.
Are we allowed to demand?
Wheel of Fortune!
Give my right wing!
Casino game!
Casino game!
Ooh, touchscreen! How divine!
Arcade class.
The most interesting feature is the touchscreen. Back in 1997, pressing animated buttons on a screen was about as high-tech sounding as you could get. It actually works pretty well with the stylus, and even with just a finger. The built-in calculator and pack-in game Lights Out used it well, but for the most part the touchscreen was virtually useless. Before I get to the games, I just want to mention that you could buy a modem for this thing. It was super slow, far too expensive, required a hefty monthly subscription, and all you could do was post high scores on a shoddy website. Nobody bought it, I don't have it, and I doubt I could use it if I did. Okay, on to the games. Interestingly, Tiger Electronics developed all the games for the Gamecom, even the licensed games. I'm willing to bet self-respecting developers didn't want to sully their image by working on a Tiger Electronics game. Indy 500. It's supposed to be a racing game, but all I can do is crash. It's not really a game, but more an exercise in frustration. How long can you stand it before you throw it across the room in a fit of buyer's remorse? Sonic Jam. Sega licensed a few properties to Tiger, and you'd think a collection of 2D side-scrollers from the Genesis would fit fine on the Gamecom. Nope. It's slow, glitchy, and looks awful. They aren't even ports of the classic Sonic games like the Saturn version of Sonic Jam. It's like some programmer at Tiger set out to make the worst Sonic game in the history of the world, but got lazy and had Sloth from the Goonies finish it. Resident Evil 2. Once again, it doesn't even resemble the PlayStation version. If it wasn't so terrible, I'd think it was supposed to be a parody. You can't help but laugh at the amateur sprites, confusing backgrounds, and unplayable controls. I don't have that many games for this thing, so I'm going to end it on a high note. Well, as high a note as possible. Duke Nukem is actually playable. It's not 3D, but it works. Sort of. You control Duke from a first-person perspective, shoot alien bad guys, and collect weapons and keys, all while on your way to the iconic nuke at the end of each level. Sounds pretty close to the PC game, doesn't it? Sorry, no. You can't turn at all. He always faces forward. You basically just strafe back and forth in a shooting gallery, and if an enemy happens to be in front of you, you can shoot him. It gets boring fast, and all the levels look the same. It's the only game I have for the Gamecom that I played more than a few frustrating minutes. So I'm going to give it the Polished Turd Award.
I have a surprise for all the slackers, but nothing better to do than play games and surf the net all day. Gamecom! Lay those bloodshot eyes on these babies! It speaks!
Let's rock.
Begs to be touched! Wires you to the internet! And it plays more games than you idiots have brain cells! Any questions? Does it play? Idiot! Next question! How about compatibility? Question! How much does it cost? Let's get 'em!
Gamecom.
Now it's time for Kane's 2 Bits! 1. This thing is not that bad, but the games are. Each is such an epic failure, you'd think it's the worst until you try another. They took the speed out of Sonic, the horror out of Resident Evil, and the 3D out of Duke Nukem 3D. Unless you're a collector, don't waste your time or money on this low-tech paperweight. 2. You could actually argue that this thing was ahead of its time. It had a touchscreen, PDA features, internet access, and 2 cartridge slots. Nintendo used these features in the DS and it was a runaway success. The Gamecom's main problem was tired electronics. They spent too much time making cheap LCD knockoff games that by the time they actually put effort into a system, they still couldn't produce a game worth playing. That's my 2 bits. If you have any thoughts on any Tiger Electronics, please leave a comment or video response. As always, I'm your humble 2-bit gamer. Thanks for watching.